Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3 from Idea Grove. My next guest, Scott Bairdell, back on the James Show. Listen, Scott, you're the guy, Scott Bairdell, who I lean on when it comes to marketing, and I thought of you when we renamed it the Gulf of America, and then within a week we get snow for the first time on the Gulf of America. Did we bring this, our climate changey effects onto this poor body of water?
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's all about rebranding. We're gonna go out with the headline, changing the name has reversed climate change. We don't have to worry about it getting too hot anymore. Now we have to worry about snow in Florida.
Yeah, so we'll just do that to fix the rest of our problems, rename it. I do find that how easy it is to say the Gulf of America. It's only been that way for like a week, and I feel like it's been that way the whole time. I don't think I could ever go back to calling it the Gulf of Mexico.
Well, you're not the only one who feels that way. The Coast Guard is already calling it that. You know, Trump signed an executive order. It's one of those he signed right away, and you've got all the Florida government agencies. And, you know, all those Gulf Coast states, they're all red states, and so all those state governments are quickly changing. I guess it's going to cost a little money, but they're quickly changing all their materials and everything from Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. So it's happening. It's just a matter of whether people outside the U.S. will call it that.
Well, I'm looking at you, Google Maps, because if I zoom out, it still says Gulf of Mexico. So I find that just terribly disappointing. I can't wait for them to come around. But yeah, you know, it's interesting to see how some rebranding just takes hold immediately, like it was always there, and other rebranding, you know, some renames, people push back against it for a long time. Like here in Dallas, I still call the water park Wet and Wild. I know it's Hurricane Harbor, but it's Wet and Wild.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, for me, as someone who knows it from my days, you know, doing projects in the middle of the night as a college student, Kinko's was a brand that, you know, for producing, you know, you're at the copier and you're producing materials in the middle of the night for stuff. It was Kinko's forever, and then FedEx bought it years ago and called it FedEx Office. And to me and the people that were lovers of this copy shop, you know, the FedEx brand was the farthest thing from it. And I still can't call it FedEx. So I'm with you.
You know, that's a really good example, because in all of our minds, FedEx is the fleet of trucks that takes your document from point A to point B. Kinko's is the place where you go print out tons of copies of said document. You're right. That one never took.
No, it didn't. And there have been other examples. It happens all the time. And what brands try to do, typical, I'll give you an example. We work with a partner that's a social media software called Sprout Social. They're one of the big software tools for scheduling posts and things like that. Well, they bought this tool Tagger last year, which was one of the top tools for managing relationships with social media influencers, because they didn't have that part. So after Tagger was a well-known brand in marketing spaces, so they waited about, 6 to 9 months, and now they call it Sprout Social Influencer Marketing. Well, I'm still going to call it Tagger. Maybe eventually I won't, but it's not an easy transition once you get used to it.
Hey, I guess this is kind of one of the things you guys do at Idea Grove. So if you got a brand or a business and you're working on a name change, is that something you can help them with, Scott?
Absolutely. We do it all the time. It's one of the funnest things to do.
All right, there you go. Scott Bairdell, how do they find you outside of WBAP?
Just go to ideagrove, like an orange grove.com.
Thank you very much. Scott Bairdell on the James Show yet again. Another successful guest appearance by Scott. Makes me very happy to know that Billy Idol's new tour is called It's a Nice Day to Tour Again. God, I love that. Like when the promo department sent me that, I had to send them an email back. It's like, I actually laughed. You know, like when you type in laugh out loud, usually you just kind of blow air through your nose, you know, or when you type a laughing emoticon. No, I actually laughed at this one. He's going to be with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. For more information, go to livenation.com, but it's one of the giveaways we're doing right now. You text the word IDOL. If you want to try and win some Billy Idol tickets, text IDOL to 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, let's go. We'll get back to talking about what is going to be released in the JFK, RFK, MLK files in just a second. My next guest, his website's got me hot over here. CurrentRevolts.com is Texas' premier, what do we call it? A political tabloid? Is that what we call it, Tony?
That's what many call it, yes.
All right, this is Tony Ortiz from Current Revolt. All right, let's start. First off, you got some great writers. Who's Tommy Oliver? Is that one of your pen names, or is that a separate guy? Who's he?
Oh, he's my editor-in-chief. He's a separate guy. He writes under a pseudonym or a pen name, so kind of keeps his...
yeah, it feels like a fake name, like the guy that writes for Zero Hedge, that's Tyler Durden. I don't think that's his Christian name. But I wish we had people write like this at the regular newspapers, whether it's the Dallas Morning News or Fort Worth Star-Telegram or wherever else here. Because when he's talking about the changes that are happening with immigration, he digs specifically into what's going on in Texas. And I didn't know that we had so many exceptions in SB 4 on where law enforcement here in Texas can actually enforce immigration law. I didn't know how many places were off limits, and I'm upset now that I know.
Yeah, I mean, SB 4 and what Texas Republicans passed basically mimics what Joe Biden passed as president, which allows invaders or illegal immigrants who are not here legally, to take sanctuary in Texas churches or Texas schools, and they can't be arrested. And as an American, this is absurd. If I commit a crime and I run into a school, I'm going to get arrested. If I commit a crime and I run into a church, I'm going to get arrested. But somebody who breaks our laws, who's not an American citizen, can run into a church or a school and they can claim sanctuary.
Well, that or a healthcare facility. I mean, there's a lot of exceptions out here that you and I, we don't get, like you were making the great point, we don't get that special exception. If I go rob a bank or commit a crime, I can't step into the nearest hospital and be like, ollie oxen free.
Right. And it's absurd that, this was carved out and this was voted and passed by Texas Republicans. And, it's, maybe I've got PTSD, but it feels so weird to vote for a guy, in this case, President Trump, and him actually following through on his promises. He's been in office for less than a week, and the stuff he's done with executive orders is just more than a lot of people, I think, actually expected to get done. And he's doing it. So now that, with his recent executive order, he's directing the Department of Homeland Security and agents to ignore the sanctuary city clause and to go ahead and if somebody is breaking the law and they're an illegal immigrant, to rush into a church or a school and arrest them, which is how it should be.
Well, also credit to Tommy Oliver for this line. He says, many people are saying they can no longer afford to educate the kids of random people from all over the world who show up in our communities. We never got to vote on running our public education system like a charity for international criminals. But if we were given the choice, I suspect we would vote against it. That's poetry. That's beautiful.
It's so true. I mean, America's got to be the only country in the world where you can go into this country illegally and have taxpayers pay for your education. All right. And I think any normal American, any normal Texan wouldn't approve of that.
Something I saw on your website that I hadn't seen anywhere else yet, but I bet I will by tomorrow. So now that we have deportations actually happening in Dallas, we have political activists who are providing tips on how illegals can avoid deportation here in Dallas.
Yeah, there's a Reddit.com, which is a majority leftist, progressive Democrat website with their users, is reporting that in Oak Cliff, Dallas, that ICE is on the prowl arresting illegal aliens. And they posted a big thread or a post on there instructing illegals on how to avoid ICE detection and how to run away and how to avoid talking with ICE. So they're actually providing instructions. These progressives are providing instructions to illegal aliens on how to avoid or how to continue breaking the law.
Well, and
which is insane.
Right. If people are wondering, well, what's wrong with just letting people know what their rights are? Well, you have a criminal and you're assisting them in continuing to evade justice for breaking the law. Yeah, isn't that illegal too? Or, aiding and abetting a criminal or something?
Should be. Yeah, right. If it's not, it should be. It's crazy to me that, again, you're invading a country You're coming over here illegally. You're invading a country, and then citizens, these leftist citizens, are telling you how to continue breaking the law. It's just these people should be jailed.
Okay, so we had SB4 that went down a couple of years ago. The last time we had a legislative session in Austin, and a lot of hindsight shows we just had poor leadership from within the Republican Party that was making some big decisions down there. Did we get rid of that Dade Phelan wing, or are we getting better Republicans down there, or are we still fighting an uphill battle?
It's still an uphill battle, and I think it'll always be, no matter who gets elected. The biggest thing is keeping these people accountable. With politicians, they say one thing when they're running, and then when they actually get elected, they do something completely different. And, we've got Dustin Burrows, who's now the speaker, and I remain moderately optimistic about him and his.
You sound cautiously optimistic.
Cautious, yeah, that's probably a better word. Cautiously optimistic, and so we'll see what happens. But today they did ban Democrat chairs, and that passed. That rule passed, so there's no Democrat chairs.
Hey.
Although now, asterisk on that, we do have potentially Democrat vice chairs. So we'll see what happens all with that, but at least we got the win with no Democrat chairs. So hopefully, I know that we'll be keeping an eye on the politicians there, but hopefully they pass, especially with a good president at the helm. Hopefully they'll pass stronger immigration laws and we'll end up with a better Texas and a stronger border.
Well, y'all have got a lot of great stories up there. Very Texas-centric, good writing from a good angle that's not insulting to our intelligence. And the next one that I'm going to point out here is going to lead into my next topic for discussion. So if you want to call in on this, I learned from Current Revolt that Mays Middleton has a new bill, SB 379, that would prohibit candy, soda, chips, junk food from being purchased with food stamps. Oh my goodness. This is another one of those, like, I can't believe this hasn't been law already, Tony.
Yeah, and it's way past due. I mean, I go grocery shopping, and obviously like any other Texan does, and you're in line and you see somebody buying cans of soda, candy, junk food, and they're reasonably overweight and you're using a SNAP card. And it's like, this stuff, not only is it expensive, but it's not healthy, and they can get a lot more value for their buck, like learning how to cook their own food properly with good ingredients that are healthy. Trump ran on a Make America Healthy Again type, spiel, and I think it's a good idea. And this is part of that. So I look forward to seeing this bill passed where they abolish junk food for welfare.
Well, it's also just the obvious irony of these people are so destitute, so poor, so starving that they can't feed themselves. They're going to die if you don't help them. Okay, here's some money so you can get some food. What are you getting? A Big Red? No, that's not what I meant. All right, Tony Ortiz, currentrevolt.com is his website. I appreciate your time, and I really appreciate your website, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
All right, this is one of the alternative websites when you people ask me, where do you get all these stories? Where do you find this stuff out? This is one of them. CurrentRevolt.com's good. DallasExpress.com's good. TexasScorecard.com's good. And look, the Dallas Observers, actually, I've been enjoying their website too, even though politically, I'm not sure if we're necessarily on the same team. But what do you think about that? What do you think about this Make Texas Healthy Again bill? Prohibiting candy, soda, chips, and other junk food from being purchased with SNAP cards. You think that's the right thing to do? You think that's a little punitive punishment? You think that's a little hateful? You think it's just harmless if they eat a Pop-Tart? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. There's a lot going on, not just in D.C. Let's take a look at Texas here, because I saw on Current Revolt that there is a bill that has been proposed called Let's Make Texas Healthy Again, SB 379. It will prohibit candy, soda, chips, and other junk food from being purchased with SNAP. That we used to call that food stamps, but now there's no stamps involved, and it's just a swipey card. So SNAP, EBT, whatever. It's proposed by a state senator, Mays Middleton, who's down in the Houston area, freezing his butt off right now with snow. Lucky dog. But he says SNAP is supposed to be nutritious food, essential to health and well-being. Junk food is clearly not that and is making people sick. Now, there's some people out there who I imagine they want to restrict the use of food stamps because they don't like the idea of, if you're going to not provide yourself and live at the expense of your neighbor, we need to keep the luxuries to a minimum. Okay, I kind of get that idea too. I'm not necessarily against people buying some food that's considered junk food, because can't you just go buy a bag of sugar? And that's not considered junk food, but it kind of is the same effect. I don't know. I'm not as restrictive as far as the food stamp stuff goes, because I just don't think it should exist, really. I'm not a big fan of food stamps going through the government, because let's look at the alternative. It's not like you and I think poor people should starve or hungry people shouldn't get food. We'd just like to address it instead of through a government program. Why not private sector measures? Why not private charities where, voluntary donations from people? And I don't even think that would necessarily fix it all. Because if this was addressed with private sector charities instead of government, then it would be up to the private sector charities. When you're handing out, your food basket from Meals on Wheels or from the North Texas Food Bank or from whatever charity, from whatever church, whatever you include in your basket, that's on you. And if you don't like it, well, then don't donate to that church or don't donate to that food bank or whatever community organization is putting that together. You can take your donations and you can put them to the group that hands out healthier baskets. You actually have control, a little bit of control over what happens with your charitable dollars. If it's not done through a government program and it's done through the private sector, we would decide, you and I would decide on whether or not one blanket decision for everyone. So that's one of the great advantages you have if you get rid of these, top-down ubiquitous government programs, is if there is a difference of opinion on whether or not we should be providing junk food to the least among us, well, you can control your own dollars and get your way. Both parties can be happy. It's very similar to the discussion that you and I have on public schools. Whether or not you want Common Core math to be taught at your school or not, the problem is that we have public schools, and one person is going to get their way, the other person's not going to get their way. But if we fragmented it out and we had school choice, or maybe just all private schools, then you would choose. If you don't like the school that teaches Common Core math or critical race theory or queer theory or any other things that you disagree with, you can just go to a different school and choose the one that matches your values. So I think one of the inherent problems that we all need to recognize before we decide whether or not we should include junk food and food stamps is recognize this is a problem primarily because we have offloaded our charitable responsibilities in a free society onto government. We have traded that responsibility, that burden to government institutions, and we have lost power because of it. What do you think? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. The other insight I have for you is that in high school for 5 months, I had a job bagging groceries. It's very prestigious. But I got to see what everybody buys at the grocery store. And the food stamp problem where I was out in Bug Tussle, few are on food stamps there. But it's exactly who you think. It is almost exclusively single moms and retirees. I mean, aside from a guy in a wheelchair or whatever, that was the only people I saw using food stamps. But yeah, the retirees are actually really good with their food choices. I don't know if they're just used to eating vegetables and meat and eating healthy. But yeah, junk food was in the basket a lot for the single moms. It's like, oh, you continue to make bad decisions. That's so weird. Brian in Mesquite, what do you think about junk food being bought with food stamps?
Oh, I'm all for them getting whatever they want, really, until the government stops their wasteful spending, I could go on all the things that they throw their money away. And if they want to take away my property taxes or something, and then, yeah, that would be okay. Then they can get rid of that. But if people can get anything back from the government, I'm all for it, because that's just less money that they're going to send to a foreign country or something. And, yeah, it is kind of annoying whenever I'm in line, and you can always tell the people that are on food stamps because their baskets are really full, and mine has just a few things because I'm trying to figure out what I can afford and what I can't afford. But as far as junk food, just depending on the person, if you're eating red meat, that's bad for you. If you're eating, ketchups loaded with sodium or raviolis, anything that's in a can, so what are they going to that's just as, for me, I have high blood pressure, so I can't eat any of that stuff because of all the sodium that's in it. So.
Well, I just have a hard time with this because someone's going to have to make a decision on the taxonomy of food now. Because, does Pop-Tarts, does that count as junk food? Because that's the observation I have to share with you, Brian, in Mesquite. When I was bagging groceries, people on the single moms on food stamps, they buy steaks and Pop-Tarts over and over. They buy a lot of breakfast cereals too, but big, thick, juicy, fat 1 5/8 inch steaks. Boy, they live well over there. Well, at least in the food department. I hear you. Good call there, Brian in Mesquite. If you want to be next, 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Junk food with food stamps. Is that okay with you? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. The James Show is going to be on the road. Got a road trip tomorrow. We're going to be live from the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo tomorrow and next Friday. So the 24th and 31st, we'll be at the exhibit hall next to Dickies Arena. Come on by and say hi. I'll be live from 2 to 5, but I'll get there a little early. I'm going to walk around and stuff my face with some food and play with some pygmy goats and check out some things, but come by and say hi. Also, the James Show listener meetup and birthday bash is happening this coming Tuesday. That's going to be at Shaw's Patio, also in Fort Worth. So anytime after 7's good. I have nothing planned. It's not like I'm going to do a stand-up routine or we're going to watch Princess Bride or anything. Don't bring me a gift. It's just so you can meet and really meet each other. I would like to see some of y'all become friends, and we can make it a whole scene, man. So anytime after 7's good. So I'll be in Fort Worth 3 times over the next 8 days or so. So come on out and say hi. No excuse. My next guest is going to help me understand why January is the most depressing month of the year for a lot of kind of negative statistics and surveys here. Dr. Brad Schwall is on. And what's the explanation? Why is January? It's got bad statistics on depression and suicide, and this is like the leading month for divorce. Why is this such a down month?
Well, one thing, it's really long. Another thing, we're coming off the holidays, and so it's a little bit of a letdown after all of that excitement. There are some physical aspects to it, so the fact that there is less sunlight, of course, here in this area we've got some sun, but the days are shorter. We typically think of it as seasonal affective disorder. Now we think of it as, it really can be major depressive order with a seasonal pattern is how we think about it now. But bottom line, the cold, lack of sunlight, does lead to people having shifts in mood and energy and motivation, and it really does require some attention.
Yeah. So what's the explanation for the divorce part of that? Is that a mental health issue too, or is that more of a financial incentive to start that at the beginning of the year?
So there would be a lot of causes and correlations, but I think, as you said, we do think on the common sense side of things, the flow of the year, the flow of finances, certainly people are waiting to make a change. So there would be a lot that goes into that. I don't know that we can determine the exact cause of why that happens, but we can make some speculation. Certainly, we pay attention to relational conflict all year long, and often that conflict does take time and to figure out where we want to go. And January does happen to be a time where people are making some decisions and making a new start.
Well, nobody's happy all the time. We all get bummed out from time to time. But at what point do you need to get some counseling?
Yes. So our therapists at the center, and we're all over North and Central Texas in offices, and we, throughout the year, of course, are helping people navigate depression, anxiety, relational conflict. How you can tell the difference between really needing some help and just going through a phase and going through a lower mood are 2 things. One, intensity and duration. So what we're looking for are a number of symptoms, a number of concerns or troubling things that are happening, like lack of sleep, change in diet, lack of motivation. So the number of those symptoms, and then that they are lasting more than 2 weeks. So if day to day you lack motivation, lack energy, the things that you normally like to do, you're not enjoying those things, and it's more than just a middle of the week thing. It's more than just you have a down weekend, but it is consistent over 2 weeks. Then that's when you do recognize that some help, some therapy can be of help. We do need to think of mental health just like we think of our physical health. Just as we think about exercise, we need to make sure we're doing things mentally, emotionally that keep us well. And so that emphasis on no matter what, no matter whether you have had this low mood for a full 2 weeks or whether you do have certain days that you don't feel yourself, we do need to take care of ourselves and do things that boost our mood and boost our outlook on life.
Dr. Brad Schwal, in my rudimentary research in this, I don't do counseling for a living like you do, but whenever I read up on it, I wonder why we don't pay more attention to the connection between depression and religion. Because in surveys and studies that I've read up online to talk about this on the radio, there seems to be a pretty strong connection with happiness and practicing, regularly attending church and people who identify as religious.
Absolutely. I mean, our center, that's what we're focused on, in that we honor faith and we do recognize that spirituality is an important aspect of life. It's an important resource. So all of our 45 therapists and psychologists really do welcome people of all faiths talking about their faith and spirituality. And there is so much about faith that offers community, that offers a sense of hope, that offers a focus on meaning and purpose beyond the moment, beyond the physical world. And so there is that research that shows that connection, and those factors of community and meaning really do play into it. And, one thing that we really believe is that people in therapy, as they're talking through changes or challenges, we want them to feel comfortable talking about how their spirituality does relate to what's happening. So, but definitely, I really appreciate you saying that it is a resource, and certainly can be something that does help us to navigate a lot of changes and difficulties in life.
All right, Dr. Brad Schwal, you can find him at the Center for Integrative Counseling and Psychology, thecentercounseling.org. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Didn't I see him on WFAA before? I think so. All right, coming up next, we'll put a big bow on this. I got some great news. Bluebell has announced a new flavor, and I think these people have been reading, they've been listening to my prayers. That's coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.